friends, I'm very happy to address you. It's the month of February. Once again, God has blessed us with good weather and many good things around us. Let me begin with the message of the week, the message of the gospel. It's a beautiful message. It's very simple, but deep down, it touches our heart. A quality of Jesus, that He's not flashy in His messages, in His teachings, but picks out from among the people, from the interior of the depth of our hearts, and gives us something that we all knew it, but then we say it's such beautiful. The message today speaks about the salt and the light. You know, the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, after the Beatitudes, Jesus speaks about these small things which bring grandeur to our life, our Christian life. The depth, the center of the Christian life. You are the salt of the earth. And if the salt loses its saltiness, it's only meant to be trampled upon and just thrown about. You know, salt is such an indispensable element of our life. It's very cheap, cheaper than anything that you can buy. Even for a few coins, you could get a handful of grains of salt. But this salt makes a lot of difference. It can transform the whole taste of that, what you're going to eat. The salt is also the quality of what's called a little of healing. A healing, you know, we rub salt whenever we have wounds or perhaps certain a little pain here and there. We also use salt to preserve things, you know, to preserve certain meats or fish, we use it. And so such an indispensable part of our life. And Jesus says the Christian life, or rather following Him, is like being the salt of the earth. And the work of the salt is to transform from inside, nothing outside. It's worthless outside, but the salt transforms the food from inside. You are the light of the world. Once again, as I said, Jesus is not flashy, but you know, when you are in darkness, in pitch darkness, you don't know whether to go forward, to go back, or to look this side, to look that side. If just this one candle is enough for you, give an assurance, you know, such a beautiful power of the light, as it were. And Jesus says, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. And He also says that this light is not to be kept under a bushel, but on a pedestal. On a pedestal. You are the light of the world. And the light does not mean that only that we have to be in the limelight, that we have to be always shining. Everyone has to look at us. We are the focus, as it were. No, the disciple of Christ is just a lamp. It's just a small light. You know, we are disciples of Jesus. I could say that many of us are not just disciples of Jesus. We are just followers of Jesus. You know, when you see a politician, he is surrounded with so many of them. Wherever he goes, they go. Whenever he comes back, they come back. We are like them. We are like the followers of Jesus. We are not the disciple of Jesus. A disciple is one who from inside is transformed like the salt, and at the same time, he is the light that shines not his own light, but the light of Christ to the others. You know, this is a beautiful reading of the first reading also, wherein we find that Isaiah speaks about light in a different way. In a different way. You know, in fact, Isaiah challenges us to see how the hungry, the poor, the naked, oppressed pose a constant challenge to us. And when we reach out to them, Isaiah says, then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. When I do good works, when you serve others, when you serve the poor, your light will shine. And this is the message. St. Paul is very clear and he is very firm also. In the second letter today, in the Corinthians, St. Paul says that let us not be fooled by this vain preaching about ourselves, preaching about certain things which have no reference at all. On the other hand, St. Paul says that perhaps we should open ourselves to God, to the power of God, because God speaks through us, God acts through us. People can experience love, joy through us, and whatever we have, and whatever we do, when we say it's for the others, the light of Christ shines among us. So my dear friends, I don't have to say much because the Gospels are very powerful today. The readings are very powerful. And therefore let us ask the Lord that in our own small little way, that we could be the salt and the light that Jesus himself is there. In that sense, we could be better followers of Jesus. I now take you to what's called the Pope's intention for the month of February. The Holy Father gives intentions for prayer every month, so that when we open our day, when we start praying every day, we can think of these particular issues that are of importance. And the Holy Father is very thoughtful, very revealing. And he puts it in this way. For this month, to pray for parishes. We pray that parishes placing communion at the center may increasingly become communities of faith and fraternity and welcome those most in need.
A veces pienso que deberíamos poner en las parroquias, en la puerta, un cartel que diga entrada libre. Las parroquias deben ser comunidades cercanas, sin burocracia, centradas en las personas y donde encontrar el regalo de los sacramentos. Tienen que volver a ser escuelas de servicio y generosidad, con sus puertas siempre abiertas a los excluidos y a los incluidos, a todos. Las parroquias no son un club para pocos, que dan una cierta pertenencia social. Por favor, seamos audaces. Replanteémonos todos el estilo de nuestras comunidades parroquiales. Oremos para que las parroquias, poniendo la comunión de la gente, la comunión eclesial en el centro, sean cada vez más comunidades de fe, de fraternidad y de acogida a los más necesitados.
Beautiful. The Holy Father thinks of the parishes. And what are the parishes? He says that the parishes is not a club of certain people who will come together, sit together and decide together, talk together, and we decide who should come here, who should not come, and put a board there. This is not allowed, this is not. Holy Father said this is not. In fact, the Holy Father is the other way about. Perhaps we could think of, he says, putting a board in our churches, free entrance, free admission. When there is free, when everyone walks in, all can walk in. There's no qualification that certain people can come, that there are certain people can sit here, that there are certain people can speak there. No, all are welcome. And not only that, it is a communion of communion, placing communion in the center, that the people who come there are become one of them, are become part of the community. And in that sense, there is no bureaucracy. Bureaucracy that this is the time that you should enter, that is the time should go, this is the dress code, this is this one. Not necessary, he says. And it should be a school of service, that people come, I need something. First of all, they come to meet God. They come to experience the love of God, the closeness of God. We have to help them. Perhaps there are some people who are not wanting to come back to the church because our church is not a welcoming church. Perhaps there are some, perhaps you can say that I may come, our priest may accept, but the people keep on sneering at me. People keep on making comments about me. There's a poor lady who told me once, Father, I was really embarrassed. There was, at the time of peace, there was this big woman who was this one, and I was there. She almost made peace, but when she saw me in my attire, perhaps I was not very well dressed, and my clothes were not very the best ones. She almost was bending and then suddenly changed her position and bowed that side because she didn't consider me good enough to give peace. We have got so many other stories to say that perhaps people don't feel comfortable in our churches. And that is what the Holy Father is stressing, communion at the center, and they become communities of faith and fraternity and welcome those most in need. Holy Father Pope Francis has said once that our churches should become like what we call the field hospitals. If there is a war, when everyone is injured, they carry them fast in their ambulances, they rush to this field hospital. The field hospital is what? It's not a big 10-storied building. It's just a camp that is put in the ground there. The people are just rushed in, pushed in and treated. A church is something like that. A church is not known for its building and structure, architecture. Perhaps we can think of those old structures, okay. A church is not something that that provides space and comfort and AC and perhaps the fans and the mics, and there are some people who make comments about these small things also. On the other hand, church is a place where I feel free to talk to God, to be close to my brothers and sisters and anticipate whatever is happening there. I can understand that you are not keeping well. I can understand that you are not very comfortable today. I can understand that you are in a problem. Something that I can do for you. This is the church. This is the community. And for them, for the Holy Father, the communion is the center. That's the most important aspect. And therefore, this is a very special intention of prayer that the Holy Father gives this month. And remember that every month we have a prayer or an intention that we prayed upon, which I'm sure you will take care. I now take you to what's called our CCBI Plenary Assembly, 34th Plenary Assembly, which had the beautiful theme, and the statement has come out, and perhaps you may read it in the public domain, and as a circular I will be sending it the next month, because my circular of this month is already out, and the next month surely I will send it, a beautiful statement prepared by about 150 bishops. And the final statement is not just a statement that is written and sent to the press. Every word of it is chewed and critically perhaps pointed out certain things, and the bishops have made a beautiful statement. And the theme, as you know, was telling the story of Jesus in our context in the synodal way. Let me just give a brief highlights of this statement that has come out. First of all, as I said, telling the story of Jesus. The chief resource person, I told you last week, was Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a very great and humble man. In fact, to him is credited the word what's called telling the story of Jesus. He comes from the Philippines. There are a lot of Christians there, and most of them are poor. And for them, he said that what they need is the experience of Jesus, the story of Jesus. And so the bishops in India also took up the same theme, telling the story of Jesus in our context. That's the Indian context. Perhaps I can tell you what's the elements of our Indian context. Before that, the story. Some people are not very comfortable. Is it only a story? Is it only a fable? it's only a fiction about Jesus. No, no, no. It should be nothing more. But the understanding is not in the sense that it's just a story, but the story of our life, the story of our Jesus. And that word is much more better than to say that proclamation, evangelization. These are big words, and people are so scared of them that we have these anti-conversion laws. We don't want people to be evangelized. We don't want people to be converted. But the bishops say that the story of Jesus, the life of Jesus, the experience of Jesus to tell others. And every story becomes a complete story when it mingles with your story, with your own story. Otherwise it remains as a story. But the story, when it becomes your own story, it's not a story. It's your experience, your sickness, your happiness, your joys. This is your story. And therefore the story of Jesus put along with your own story is the real story for us today. There are certain elements that we can speak about this story. First of all, the story of Jesus that takes root or takes birth in each one of us. We have also experienced the story of Jesus. I am a Christian today because I heard the story of Jesus. I heard about the birth of Jesus. I heard about his sufferings. I heard about his message to the others. And now I also would like to be his follower. I also would like to be his disciple, not just a follower, but a disciple of Jesus. And therefore, his story has improved my story. Secondly, it's not only mine, I take it to my family. Every family has a story. It's different. It's not just structured to say that, yes, they get married, they get the first child, this happens, this. No. It may not happen in that way. It happens in a different way. First of all, the parents, the father and the mother, boy and the girl coming together, that itself is a love story. It's a love story. It's a very interesting story. And then the story of Jesus in the family, that the family carries on sharing the experience of Jesus. Perhaps they read it, they share among themselves. Many of the people have also started following the Bible very closely, the Bible marathon. There was such a beautiful response to the Bible quiz that was conducted for children in St. Peter's Seminary. Not only the quiz but also the competitions, etc. And 550 children went there. You can imagine the story of these 550 children as they experience the wisdom of the Bible. And thirdly, we say the church. The church itself also is a place where the story of Jesus is told. When we come for Mass, we have the 2 readings or 3 readings. We have the hymns that together. We have the experience of the one who shares with us, and the Eucharist. The Eucharist is the climax of the story of Jesus. The sacraments, the climax of the story of Jesus in our life. And then we say it doesn't stop at that. Christianity is not only a church-based religion. Christianity is life-based religion. Therefore, the people who go out of the church in service for the others, trying to find out, search out those that have needs and trying to reach out. So this is not only the story of Jesus, but the story of our life, story of our work. And we say this story can also be replicated in many ways. It can be read, lived, shared in a dynamic manner, in a synodal way. The word synodal is very important there, because the synodality means going out and reaching out to the last one. Synodality doesn't mean that we sit together in a meeting to discuss these big things. No, it's going out to those people who have need of this word of God, of this story of Jesus. And therefore, we stress very much the community once again. The ward level, perhaps the BEC, the basic ecclesial communities, what we call SSC communities, or perhaps the families together, the associations, the parish council, all these perhaps repeating the story of Jesus in their own way. At every beginning of every meeting, if I say that I'm going to start this parish council members, people are waiting to say, ask this, to ask that and all. The first question would be, can we say something about the story of Jesus in this meeting of ours. How we can live the story of Jesus. Not only the story of Jesus, not only doing things, but also understanding. And therefore, this is how perhaps the CCBI came together in the face of the challenges of India. There are so many problems of India, the social conditions of ours, the addictions. Many of our youth also getting addicted to drug abuse, alcohol, etc. The poverty and inhuman conditions of many of our people, the massive displacement of people and migration. People from in Bangalore also, there are so many migrants. They are living in small huts. They don't know the language. They don't know this one, and most of them are like domestic type. And people are not even bothered how much is paid to them. So many perhaps paid very less. I am told some of the factories, some of the garment, this one, where these migrants are working, nobody's asking. They have no such thing as called work time. They have to be there, and that is this one. The greed and consumerism. We have money to spend, but not to share with others. We have a celebration, we have a wedding. It's going to be a lavish one. Perhaps sometimes when I see those cards, the invitation cards itself, each card would be enough to feed one person. But we have money to spend. And then we have also what's called the government legislations that sometimes are overbearing. There are troublesome for us. They are weighty for us. Many people cannot pay taxes. They have to, since they cannot pay taxes, they hide their income. They try to escape, and naturally they get into more trouble also. The growing culture of what we call intolerance. I cannot tolerate these people. I cannot tolerate that category. And this is not only religion based, perhaps inside the religion also there is no tolerance. The anti-conversion bills and the other things that are coming. And there are so many things perhaps in the challenges that we place, and in this the story of Jesus. And this particular message is addressed to everybody. First of all, our children. We have beautiful children in our Archdiocese, and many of them are responding well. The youth and the families, and very especially grandparents and the parents, we will not forget them. The elders in our families, it's for them also we address our message. The pastors, the consecrated persons, the religious, the ones who are promoting the basic ecclesial community, perhaps the smaller groups like Faculare, the Neo-Catechumenate, and there are so many associations that are trying to reach out at the grassroots level in small groups, utilizing celebrations of Eucharist. That's the best occasion for us. And also standing in solidarity with the persecuted, with those that are marginalized, those that are left out of our society. And we don't forget the other brothers and sisters of faith, of the other churches, of the other denominations. Especially in time of trouble and struggle, we try to come together, because ultimately we proclaim the same Jesus. We read the same Bible. We have the same faith, and therefore let us be together. And finally, we do not forget our Hindus and Muslim brothers. They are also very often of great support to us. Their children, they trust us in our schools. They admit their patients in our hospitals. And not only some of them believe that our Christian hospitals, our Christian schools can give them the story of Jesus for life. So therefore, this is the message that the bishops are giving to us. If you have time, please go through the message of the bishops of the CCBI 34th Plenary Assembly, that is specially themed as telling the story of Jesus in our context in a synodal way. I next take you to what we call the World Day of the Sick, February 11th. February 11th every year is a very special day. The day of when Our Lady of our Mother Mary appeared at Lourdes to Bernadette Soubirous. And this little girl brought the message, the healing message, the consoling message of Mother Mary to the whole world. And so since some years now, since about 20-25 years, Holy Father Pope John Paul II, who is now a saint, he declared this day, 11th of February, as the Day of the Sick, World Day of the Sick. First of all, to pray for the sick. And secondly, to pray for a healing for those who are sick. Perhaps when we say sick, we say that those who are hospitalized, those who are in ICU, yeah, that's normal. But they are not only they are sick, we also are sick. We are also sick in some way, in our mental faculties, in our perhaps emotions. There are some people who have not forgiven each other and they are wounded. They are wounded, They say sometimes some of the psychosomatic diseases are because we have not been forgiven, we have not forgiven others. And therefore this World Day of the Sick is very special. And the Holy Father has sent a message, a very special message to say. And the theme of the message is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 35. Take care of him. Take care of him. It has the reference to the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan, who happened to pass by and saw that person who had fallen almost dead. He was robbed, he was almost to be killed there, and he picks him up, takes him up on his donkey and takes him to the inn. And there he tells the innkeeper these words, take care of him. And therefore the Holy Father says, take care of him. Who? The one who is sick. Perhaps he is related to you. Perhaps he is known to you, or maybe he is unknown. But then don't pass by. Don't pass by. Take care of the sick. And in this way, the Holy Father, as it were, gives us a message, a very special one, to take care of the sick this one. Friend, there is a reference, Isaiah 34, verse 15 to 16, where Holy Father quotes Isaiah and says, I will be the shepherd of the sheep, the sick, the wounded, the lost. And not only that, very many times, as I told you, of the what called the field hospital. The church is a field hospital. We have to take care of the sick, those who are dying, and give them hope. And the face of Mother Mary is always perhaps lovingly saying that I don't mind coming down to earth once again in order to raise you up from your sickness, from your sadness, from your disposition of despair, despondency. So that is the message that we have. So take care of him. We have our St. John's Medical College, which has got the logo, he shall live because of me. He shall live because of me. That means he or she or anyone who is sick perhaps will live, will breathe a little longer because of me. Let's do what we can in order to help, raise and heal the sick. The last question is very interesting, very short one, but something that makes us think and meditate a little. The question is the virtue of detachment in the Catholic tradition. What should we detach ourselves from? The virtue of detachment in the Catholic tradition, what should we detach from? This is an offhand question, but then it has got a deep meaning. First of all, what is detachment? Detachment is staying a little far from something. I have this pen and the pen top. I can detach the pen top from the pen for some time till I use the pen and then I attach them once again. Attachment and detachment. But in our spiritual tradition, the Catholic tradition, the detachment has got a rich meaning. Perhaps in Sanskrit or in our Indian language we call sannyasa. Sannyasa. We have one or two institutes called sannyasa in Bangalore where perhaps a little more of explanations of detachment is given. For me, I would say the layman's listing would be that we detach ourselves from something, from someone, for something that is in our heads in order to be closer. You detach yourself in order to be closer, in order to be perhaps in the presence of something. And therefore, for Christians, detachment would be that we come closer to God, at the same time we leave out certain things. I take you to the reference of Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 to 20. This is the pericope of the first call of the disciples. Jesus comes and he sees Peter and his brother Andrew fishing, and he says, "Come, follow me." And there we get the words the explanation to say that they left their nets and followed him. A little longer, a little distant away, Jesus sees another two disciples, future disciples, another two persons there fishing there, and they happen to be both brothers, James and John, and he tells them, "Come, follow me." And they leave their boat and they leave their father and follow me. So I shall take these three words. First of all, leaving the nets. Secondly, leaving the boat. And thirdly, leaving the father. I would say that these are three ways of detaching ourselves. It's not only for priests and religious, for holy people, but for everyone. First of all, following Jesus means cutting off from their means of livelihood. I have to live, I have to work. But then when Jesus calls, I leave even that. Does it mean that I'm going to fast forever now from now on? No. I depend on God, providence. God will provide. God will provide. And God doesn't disappoint. God never disappoints. And therefore, the first means is the means of our livelihood. Something that would be on which I'm dependent on my own security, as it were. I sacrifice. I detach myself. Secondly, leave the boat. Leave the boat. The boat, in those days when the disciples were there, when Jesus was there in the Palestine, that particular years of era, there was no such thing as perhaps vehicles, the transport, the trains and the buses, not even anything of that sort. Perhaps at the most they had a bullock cart, a horse cart, and the transport meant, especially for the people of Galilee, they could travel very easily through the boats. And therefore, to leave a boat means you are almost cutting your travel or your legs, as it were, that you won't be able to travel. And that's not only the meaning of traveling also, but communication. And transport and communications go together. I can ring up to somebody and say that I'm coming, I'm not coming. But then to cut off your transport and communication means to detach yourself from these things in order to be close to God. The figure of Martha and Mary. Mary sits at the feet of Jesus. Martha is busy. And Jesus says, "Martha, Martha, you are busy with so many things, but one thing is missing. And what is missing is with Mary." And therefore, our transport and communications is the figure of the boat, as it were. And thirdly, they left their father and followed him. They left their father. The father is the symbol of what's called our blood relationship or human relationship, and therefore detachment from our own blood relations or our friend circle, our friends, as it were. These are very important for us. A family is very important. We grow up in a family. You can't ask a mother to abandon her child. You can't ask a father to leave go. They need the family. And as the children grow up, perhaps as we grow up, we have a friend circle. We are very much dependent on our friend circle also. I depend on the opinion of my friend for certain things that I am doing. But then Jesus asks you to cut off from that. Why? Because Jesus wants to be your friend. Jesus wants to be your relation. And therefore, cut off from your father. Cut off from all your blood relationship, your mother, your family, so that you can be more closer to God. You can be detached from your relations, from your blood relations, from your friends, so that you can be attached to Christ. So therefore, first of all, the nets, is your livelihood, your boat is your means of transport and communication, and your father is blood relationship that your God is asking you. Perhaps it's not a great sacrifice that He is asking. He is not asking you to deprive yourself and I will see that you fast and you are this. No, 100-fold He promises. He promises 100-fold. That means if you are going to leave one pen, perhaps 100 pens you can expect. If you are going to leave one of your friends, God is going to give you another 100 friends. 100-fold is going to bless you. So that is the trust that we put in Jesus, and that is the detachment that we speak from our worldly things, our relationships, etc., in order to be attached to Jesus Himself. So my dear friends, I wish you a very happy, a holy week, a week in your family, and keep up this theme, what we call the year of the family, in some way sort of fulfilled in your own family. I wish you and your family a very happy weekend and a week ahead.
My dear friends, I'm sure you have witnessed the Shepherd's Voice, which is being presented by our beloved Archbishop, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Machado, the Archbishop of Bangalore, who takes so much of interest and concern in order to bring the various topics, the contextual aspects, in order to inform, educate, and catechize all of us, the priests, the religious, and faithful of this vast archdiocese. And I'm sure you are enjoying this program, Shepherd's Voice, and I request each one of you to share with your other colleagues, friends, and family and relatives, near and dear ones, so that everyone in this archdiocese can be more closer to listen to the Archbishop on this Shepherd's Voice, the weekly feature. My dear friends, as I've always told, that this is a wonderful platform wherein we can connect to the Shepherd of this archdiocese, wherein he brings in the interesting topics in order to increase our devotion and love towards God, and also to know the spiritual matters that concerns our faith. In a very special way, you are most welcome to ask your questions, queries, and you can send them to us at archdblr@gmail.com, and you will also see our mobile number in and through which you can connect with our media center, Ave Studios, and the Archdiocesan Communication Center. Please do write to us your feedback, your opinions. Thank you. Continue to watch and continue to share with others.